I will never condone or associate with his conduct and behavior on the internet. I let him know men don't argue in beef behind a mic on the internet. Real men move in silence.
He's not no tough guy, like, he's a rapper. So just because you did whatever you did in the streets, you never did nothing. You never was no none of that. You was a dude that was doing your little ones and twos and you became a rapper.
You know I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like there's nobody that's too hard. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. Just in the environment, they got, and it's not him individually, because everybody is greater in their absence than they are in their presence. His aura is stronger than he is.
It's been a whole 25 years and the question that's been floating around the streets since 2000 is still the same. Who really shot 50 Cent? For more than 2 decades, all anyone ever had were whispers, theories, and whatever version of the truth 50 felt comfortable sharing. But now Supreme McGriff, the same man people have been pointing fingers at forever, is finally talking from inside prison. And he's doing it with purpose, not regret. This ain't some emotional confession. This is a man choosing the right moment to speak because he wants to shape the story his way.
I know they had to have something to do with it, and they come to find out that the dudes who did it was working for Murder Inc.
50 Cent recently sat down and opened up about the day everything almost came to an end. May 24th, 2000, that shooting in Jamaica, Queens was no small thing. 9 hits tore through his body, leaving him fighting to stay alive, while the whole neighborhood was buzzing with fear and confusion. When he looks back now, he says that moment didn't just change him. It rebuilt him into somebody completely different. It pushed him off the corner and straight into worldwide fame. 50 also revealed his mindset right after the attack, and the truth shocked a lot of people. Music wasn't even on his mind. He wasn't sitting there dreaming about charts or awards.
Different. We are masters of self-defense. If you ain't talking about positivity or growth and goals, keep your mouth shut. That goes for everybody.
He was trying to figure out how to stay alive, stay moving, and stay sharp. Fame wasn't the mission, survival was. And on top of trying to heal, 50 had another fight happening at the same time. Staying relevant in an industry that practically turned its back on him overnight. Labels wanted distance, business deals fell apart. People who used to welcome him suddenly acted like he didn't exist anymore. But instead of begging for a handout, he built his own lane with pure determination. With scars still fresh across his face, chest, legs, and hands, he went straight underground and turned G-Unit into something serious.
Music in '96, 2000, about to release an album. What happens?
Oh, but I was shot
9 times.
Yeah.
And the album goes by and you're fighting for survival.
Yeah, and it became a part of, it shifted my concept.
He pushed through a pain, doubt, and a system that wanted him gone, and he did it with style. Within just 2 years, his hustle, his grind, and his street-smart decisions turned into real power, proving that nobody could shut down his rise. Eminem and Shady Records eventually came knocking like it was destiny calling, and by 2003, Get Rich or Die Trying dropped and flipped the whole industry upside down. Overnight, the same man everyone once tried to shut out became the loudest name in rap, moving like he owned every room he walked into. But even with all that fame, all that cash, and all that global attention, the one thing that never changed was the truth. The case is still officially unsolved to this very day, and the list of suspects long enough to fill a whole notebook. Back in the early 2000s, 50 was already a serious underground problem. His mixtapes were shaking the streets, and anybody paying attention could tell he was about to break through in a major way, even if the industry didn't see it coming yet. That's when Murder Inc. stepped into the picture. Irv Gotti, Ja Rule, Ashanti, and their whole squad were running radio, charts, and clubs like they owned the decade. But something about 50's energy, his confidence, and the way he moved started rubbing Irv and Ja the wrong way. And you gotta remember, the industry was still shaky from the whole East Coast, West Coast mess. Even if the drama had technically slowed down, the tension was still in the air. Then in 1999, things took a sharp turn. Ja Rule was robbed in Southside Jamaica, not by 50 personally, but by someone connected to his people, and that situation lit a fuse that had already been sitting there waiting to blow up.
The numbers, Get Rich or Die Trying. He had a short first week, right? And it came back, it was like 830-something thousand records, and I was like, and then we didn't have the decrease that you would have. That meant they undershipped it, because there wouldn't be that 60% or that 30% decrease that would be there for every album. Wasn't there because the following week it came in with a whole nother 800 something thousand. I was on a bus, I was riding, I remember I was like, yo, this is never gonna feel like this again. I knew I'm by myself. And back of the bus we was riding, and I said, this is never gonna feel like this again. And I knew to really like enjoy the moment.
At that time, Ja was Murder Inc.'s rising star with the spotlight all over him, while 50 was just starting to buzz heavy in New York streets. But later that same year, the tension jumped straight into the music. 50 dropped "Ya Life's on the Line," firing direct shots at Ja Rule without holding anything back. And after that, everything went downhill fast. The next year, 50 and Ja crossed paths at a nightclub in Atlanta. Words flew across the room, tempers exploded, and fists came out swinging as both camps turned the spot into chaos. After that night, they weren't just rivals, they were official enemies. Then we fast forward to March 2000 and that infamous brawl at the Hit Factory studio in New York. Members of G-Unit and Murder Inc. clashed hard, and in the middle of all that madness, 50 ended up stabbed during the fight.
Tonight, music mogul Irv Gotti got a lift from his attorneys and a verdict that found him not guilty on all counts.
Me and my brother never did anything. We never did anything. Only thing we was guilty of is being friends with and knowing somebody who was from our neighborhood.
After the verdict, the prosecutors walked out of the courthouse and would only say this.
We respect the verdict.
It was a terse statement in contrast to the celebratory mood of Irv Gotti and rap star Ja Rule.
Get ready, right coming. The music is coming. Go to the studio right now. You understand?
Murder Inc. had no idea this was just the start of something way bigger than a studio argument. Rapper Black Child later came out and admitted he was the one who stabbed 50, but he claimed he did it in self-defense because he thought someone in the room was reaching for a piece. After that whole mess, Irv and Ja spent years telling everyone that 50 filed a protective order against them over the stabbing, pushing that story like it was fact. But when the court files finally came out, the truth hit different. 50 never filed anything. The NYPD issued that order automatically, which means the whole protective order argument was never even his move. Then just weeks after that studio fight, May 2000 drops and 50 gets hit 9 times while sitting outside his grandmother's house in Queens. This wasn't some random act. It was a calculated hit that almost took him out for good. But the weird part, even though 50 survived to tell the story, the details have always been confusing and full of gaps. 50's version became street legend, ambushed in broad daylight, hit 9 times, and somehow surviving with a toughness people couldn't ignore. His whole identity turned into the story of a man who refused to fold no matter what happened. A federal investigation later tied Queens kingpin Kenneth Supreme McGriff to the hit, saying he allegedly planned it as retaliation for 50's track Ghetto Koran, where McGriff's name was mentioned directly. And the connection wasn't random. McGriff was tight with Irv Gotti, and their link ran deep on both the business and street sides. By 2003, the feds had Irv and his brother Chris Gotti in court, accusing them of moving McGriff's dirty money through Murder Inc. The news was everywhere. The trial was high profile, but both brothers walked free in 2005. McGriff, however, wasn't that lucky. In 2007, he got hit with a separate case and received life in prison with no chance of parole for double homicide, substance trafficking, and racketeering charges. But here's the wild part. Even with all the rumors, the talk, and everything the streets whispered about, neither McGriff nor anyone from Murder Inc. was ever officially charged for the hit on 50. 50 always said it was a planned and targeted attack, but McGriff wouldn't talk. He stayed silent for years, leaving everyone guessing whether it was loyalty, strategy, or just the code he lived by. Fast forward 25 years, and out of absolutely nowhere, McGriff finally decides to break that silence.
He's not no tough guy, like, he's a rapper. So just because you did whatever you did in the streets, you never did nothing. You never was no none of that. You was a dude that was doing your little ones and twos, and you became a rapper.
But he didn't speak to clear anything up. He spoke to shut somebody down. He reached out to his own son, Kenneth McGriff Jr., telling him to stay quiet after Jr. publicly went at 50 Cent. Jr. accused 50 of building his whole brand off his father's name and said the McGriff family deserved royalties because of it. But when 50 showed up on Ebro in the morning, he brushed all that off like it was nothing and said people outside the 5 boroughs don't even know who Supreme McGriff is. That comment didn't sit right with Kenneth Jr. at all. He jumped online and clapped back on Instagram, saying, "How can you say Preem is not the reason for your success? Your storyline in the industry was guy gets shot 9 times, he lives. That's like a movie script. So of course people are gonna buy into your story. You were the underdog, but you were scared of them. You were scared of Jimmy. You were scared of my pops. You were scared of Lil Kim's baby father. You were talking nobody knows Preem outside of the 5 boroughs. Rapper Black Child eventually stepped up and admitted he was the one who stabbed 50, but he claimed he only did it because he thought someone in the room was reaching for a piece. After that, Irv and Josh spent years running around it saying 50 filed a protective order against them over the incident, pushing that story like it was fact. But when the files finally came out, it turned out 50 never filed anything. The NYPD issued it automatically. The whole narrative had been twisted from day one. Then just a few weeks after that studio fight, May 2000 hit, and 50 was sitting outside his grandmother's house in Queens when he got hit 9 times in a targeted attack that almost ended everything. What makes the whole situation so strange is that even though he lived to tell it, the details have always stayed blurry.
Due to recent events, the elevation to a place of peace and rest for my brother and friend, Irv Gotti, and the buffoonish display of my son, Kyle Robinson, I am forced to make a public statement in defense of Irv and his family. I do not indulge in idle chit-chat. When I speak, I have something to say. Kyle Robinson does not speak for Irv or Irv's family, nor does he speak for me or my nephew, Gerald Prince Miller. I was disgusted when I heard about the things he said as far as representing Irv. I let him know men don't argue in beef behind a mic on the internet. Real men move in silence. He had a choice, me or the net. He made his choice. And until he forsakes the clown show, which is the internet, I will never speak or associate with him, especially when he makes veiled threats talking about we. Who is we? Prince and myself do not promote threats of violence. We different. We are masters of self-defense. If you ain't talking about positivity or growth and goals, keep your mouth shut.
And complicated. 50's version became legendary, ambushed in broad daylight, struck 9 times, and somehow surviving with a new level of toughness that shaped his entire identity. A federal investigation later connected Queens heavyweight Kenneth Supreme McGriff to the hit, saying he allegedly planned it in retaliation for 50's track Ghetto Koran, where McGriff's name was mentioned directly. And it didn't help that McGriff was closely aligned with Irv Gotti. Their bond was deep and their circles overlapped on both business and street levels. By 2003, Irv and his brother Chris Gotti were sitting in federal court, accused of moving McGriff's illegal money through Murder Inc. The case made major headlines, but both brothers walked free in 2005. McGriff, however, wasn't so lucky. In 2007, he got slapped with a separate case and sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for double homicide, substance trafficking, and racketeering. But even with all the rumors and street talk, nobody from Murder Inc. was ever officially charged in connection to 50's shooting. 50 always said the hit was planned, but McGriff never addressed it. He stayed silent for decades. Was it loyalty? Was it strategy? Or was it just the old school code kicking in? Nobody knew. But then 25 years later, everything flipped again when McGriff finally opened his mouth, not to clear anything up, but to tell his son, Kenneth McGriff Jr., to stay quiet. This came right after Jr. publicly called out 50, accusing him of building his whole success off his father's name and claiming the McGriff family deserved royalties. When 50 appeared on Abro in the morning, he shut that idea down instantly and said barely anyone outside the 5 boroughs even knows who Supreme McGriff is. That comment made Kenneth Jr. snap back on Instagram saying, "How can you say Preem is not the reason for your success? Your storyline in the industry was guy gets shot 9 times, he lives. That's like a movie script. So of course people are going to buy into your story. You were the underdog, but you were scared of them. You were scared of Jimmy. You were scared of my pops. You were scared of Lil Kim's baby father. You were talking nobody knows Preem outside of the 5 boroughs, and now the question is wide open again. Did Supreme finally speak because of loyalty, pressure, or pride? If you want more deep dives like this, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop your opinion below, and I'll see you on the next one.